What's up, guys? It's Josh here and you're watching Daily Curiosity, and today I'm with my friend Jackson. So we've been meaning to do this for a while, man.
Right?
We've been talking about it. So look, for those of you who don't know Jax, I met Jax about a year and a half ago, I want to say, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah.
We met through one of our good friends, Benny, who's we've already had a little sit-down chat with him, so it's becoming quite popular now.
Yeah, Benny's been telling me to sit down with you and record something for a while, so yeah, I'm stoked, super stoked.
Awesome, man. Well, I guess just to kick things off, if we just tap into a little bit of your story, and then sort of go on to have a chat about a few different things that I've been really interested to ask you. But yeah, man, why don't we just kick off with your story and sort of how you got where you are now?
I've got quite good at this, being interviewed and being in Canada, I had to do like a quick one on TV live. So I've got good at giving my elevator speech, which is good because I can talk, we can talk for hours, but I'll give you a quick overview. Basically, born and raised in country Gympie, and if anyone knows Gympie, they'll straight away get a smile on their face like, oh.
Shout out to Gympie.
The town that saved Queensland, they say. Probably not going to be the town that saved Queensland for very long. But born and raised in countryside, Gympie, and my father was, back and forth for a few years, and then he was quite into alcohol, so my mum removed us from that situation. She was always someone that didn't want to have us in that environment. So we struggled a lot, but mum always said to me, I'd rather struggle than be in an environment that is toxic, which now I understand that a lot. And I think I understood that a little bit at a young age too, but I think it's just I want a Game Boy, I want this, you don't know why you're not having stuff. So raised in that environment, we struggled a little bit. I remember I had to kind of save up to afford my own textbooks, and it was a struggle. My friends would have Echo and those brands like Ripco, and Ripco was cool, and I couldn't really afford that. What we always had was healthy meals, a very good environment. My mum made sure the environment wasn't toxic. My mum made sure that we were learning things about the country, learning things about we'd always go to water holes and swimming and stuff like that. So she was pushing me into doing soccer, and she was always telling me to, because I had ADD growing up. I still have it, but it was out of control.
Shout out to ADD.
Shout out to ADD. It's a success story, so keep listening. But my mum was like, okay, well, he's got ADD, or mum didn't even like to call it that. Mum doesn't like to label anything. As the listeners don't know, my mum's a naturopath or a herbalist, so she's really about not labeling too much and just doing your own thing, because some people get stuck with that label and they follow it for so long and they use it as an excuse. But mum was like, okay, well, if you got a lot of energy, then use it. So I got into soccer when I was young, played soccer pretty competitively, and you got into hockey and stuff, so we had that similar, that community where we found a community, we found something we can use our energy and go all in on it. And then throughout that, we'll skip kind of that middle age. I went through kind of some anger issues because I didn't have a father around, and weird father figures back and forth. Mum did her best, but obviously there's some things that are going to happen that I'm confused about. And then I was just an angry kind of kid. I was small, I was insecure, and I was poor me, angry type of guy. So I got into boxing. Again, mum was bought me a boxing bag at home, was hit this instead of punching walls and holes in our walls at home.
Get your energy out.
Skip forward from that, did a little bit of boxing, had my own boxing fight, and then it really tamed me knowing that you can really hurt people and what goes on. Got in a few little street fights growing up in Gympie, that's what you do. And then from that point, I found fitness and gym and exercise, and it wasn't as violent, but it still had that meditational kind of work on yourself, and it was filling the insecurities that I had about being the smallest kind of skinnier guy in all my grades.
No, man, it's funny when we talk all the time, and the relatability between our two stories is pretty funny. My mum works with kids with special needs, or did, and she just laughs because she's like, yeah, you definitely had ADD or ADHD, whatever you call it, but she's like, I didn't want you to be medicated, so I was like, yeah. Thank you, mum.
Yeah, my mum said the same thing. Ritalin is not really understood, and
it's not really
It's crazy that one kid can take Ritalin and it can make him super hyper, and then with the kids that have ADD labeled can make them more relaxed, but it seems like it kind of kills their personality and their passion and vibe. So for extreme cases, we understand, but for people that can do it a bit more holistically, maybe less sugar and colours and environment.
Oh dude, I remember studying for uni, and I was really sick. I had a really bad flu. and I sat down for like 3 days, and I was on cold and flu drugs. So you got the pseudoephedrine, the good stuff.
The good stuff.
And I said, I was on the phone to my mum. I'm like, I've never been able to concentrate like this. Like I studied for 3 days straight, had this massive exam. I was so wired in. She's like, that's because you have ADD, Josh. And I was like, it was so funny. That was like the sink-in moment. I was like, we never really spoke about it, you know what I mean?
If you plant the seed, the plant will grow. So she's like, don't plant it.
Oh yeah, just simply, and like same thing, man. Our outlet was sport. Like we just do physical stuff like all day, every day. But like I've said to you, it's like I definitely think it's a superpower. You know, you got excess energy, you've got a lot of creativity, your mind's just going like that all the time. Like I think there's a lot of positive things. It's just maybe that school's not the best environment for someone in that sort of situation, because you've got to sit down and focus and not move around much. So, man, there's a few things I want to tap into. So, yeah, it's so funny again. Like, dad's alcoholic, out of the scene pretty early. Like, it's hilarious how funny how closely our stories align.
Ben told me that in the early stages when we were hanging out, because Ben's like, you guys get along. Josh is just like a slightly older version of you.
That's fast forward 10 years.
Yeah, and I was like, that's cool. I like the fast forward. But yeah, there's going to be more than this conversation.
Oh, definitely, man. So when you really got into the gym stuff, like in the fitness sort of side of things, and you know, with you see it, you live in every aspect of your life. Like it's not just in the gym, it's nutrition, but you also look at the mental side of things as well with like, you know, meditation. For those of you who see Jackson's Instagram, he's like constantly out in the morning. You like to be outside, you know, you do your yoga flow or you're getting outside. Like there's a lot of different elements to that. Like I guess for you, what really sort of kick-started that sort of different side to you where you really wanted to tap into like your own health, like physically and then also like mentally as well?
I suppose even though a lot of people don't want to give gratitude to the bodybuilding scene and just like lifting weights in the gym, I suppose it actually started with that, because if I didn't start with wanting to build my muscle, even if it wasn't for the most amazing book writing ideas, you know, to feel insecurities, to have females more attracted to me because I was a skinny guy at school and stuff. I never really had a problem with that because I was funny and I kind of like, you know, I know how to speak. I grew up with an older sister, my mum, and I was in a very female dominant environment. So I was very good at speaking to girls and understanding girls, let's say very good, a bit better than others around me. So I never had a massive problem, but it was inside me. I was like, I never really believed in myself. So I would say it actually started with the passion to build muscle and get stronger and be more dominant as a male. I want to be more alpha. But then over time, I accidentally fell into realizing, okay, eventually you filled the ego. I've come 3 times, 3rd in national competitions for WBFF fitness modeling. I went junior bodybuilder for Queensland, went to America, competed over there, and I was like, okay, I've filled all the ego I could kind of fill, to the point where I was like, what's going to really be the most benefit as I get older? And it's from meeting people and training with people that can do more with their body that made me realize, like, okay, bodybuilders have this big look, but what can they do with it? So I started researching and looking up, and when I was young playing soccer, I got into kickboxing after boxing as well. Never competed in it, but I was really liked the kicking. And when UFC first came around, like me and Josh are obsessed with UFC. Like the fight that was on yesterday, Jones versus Reyes. Like we just talk about it all the time. And some of the other guys we hang out with can't really handle us. We get into our own chats, like hot tub chats and ice bath chats. But seeing that at a young age, I was like, I see the little guys hitting the bigger guys and winning the fights, and it's like, I'm the little guy. So I started moving around martial arts, getting involved in that stuff, and I realized like being super big and muscular doesn't also mean you be skilled and fit. And I remember when I was doing kickboxing, I was very skinny, but I was way fitter than what I was doing bodybuilding. So I'm like, how can I have the look of the bodybuilder, have the mindset of a monk, and move like a UFC fighter? And that's when I was like, well, these light bulbs went off, and I was like, is it possible? Well, I know that some of the guys in the UFC are jacked, they move really well, and they do ice baths and meditation, watching the Ultimate Fighting series and stuff, and I'm like, people can do it, it just takes that extra bit. So how do I get there? So I started just researching and reading, and I was never having ADD, I never was a book reader, but when it comes to like articles and when YouTube became popular and like I could just Google what I wanted, I could just pull pieces from what I want. I could be reading 3 different things at the same time. Like I got a book in one hand, I'm YouTubing something else. And I found that it all starts with like morning routines, that set off the day.
Yeah.
So from, after I learnt this, I got right involved in Aubrey Marcus Own the Day, and listening to a lot of podcasts and stuff that you do, and Ben Greenfield. But I found that you can listen to those for months and months and do all the listening and all the reading, but unless you actually make the step to go for a walk in the morning, no music, just fresh air, just get out in nature, until you can. I did hot yoga for months and months of pain. It was so much harder than I could do a 2-hour workout anytime. Train with powerlifters, train with whoever, do kickboxing classes, whatever. But hot yoga took me through a pain and a demon. I had to face a demon that I've never been able to face before. So I realized if you mix some of the things that you aren't good at with the things that you're good at, it keeps the flame going, and that's created the mind body strong that I'm really obsessed with, that we talk about a lot. Trying to hit all the pillars, which is not easy.
No, for sure, man. And I guess the big thing that I've sort of seen since knowing you as well is you've taken that sort of that health side, but then you've created a brand out of that. You know what I mean? Like with JFit, and like with all the stuff that you do with your online stuff, and the stuff on the Instagram and social media. Like that was really cool how you've like taken something you're really passionate about, which I guess is like the goal for most people. Like if you're able to do that, take something you're super passionate about it and turn it into a brand, and then be able to utilize it. What for you, how did you get from where you were, like your training, you're understanding all these different parts of the body, to, okay, how do I convert this into a brand, almost like a business? How did that evolve?
That's a great question, because it's all fun and games to be passionate about, meditation, ice baths, exercising, weightlifting, but like if you're working a 9 to 5 and it's draining you, it's really hard to be the best at that. So for me to be like, it all started when I wanted to become, it kind of happened, okay, I had a motorbike accident, and my fault, I was speeding on the motorbike, doing the wrong thing. My 3 best friends were in a BMW beside me, we were actually racing. Not many people know that, because I couldn't say it at first. I was so embarrassed about it. But you get older, you realize there's some mistakes that happen. But we were racing. We just finished leaving the gym. We were racing. I just finished training calves and legs, so I wasn't in a good shape to be riding. I didn't have ABS on the bike. Lost control. Missed a few cars, luckily, and that's why I always say, like, I never really believed in God, but there's something looking over me. Yeah. I just hit the side of the bitumen on my shorts, slid into the grass, and the only scratches and cuts I got was sliding in the grass. But as I landed, I hit an island, and as I landed, like the bike jumped up, not very far, like, a meter or so on the island, and as I put my foot down, my foot got folded underneath the bike, and my right ankle got folded completely. And when I got up, I couldn't feel it because of all the adrenaline, and I started walking. All I cared about was my bike. I only had it was my 7th or 8th time I've ridden my bike, which again, not experienced enough. And all my mates pulled over in the car and was like doing like this with their head, and they're looking at me like, they're shaking their head, and I'm like, what are they worried about? Like, I'm all good. I looked down and I was standing on the side of my ankle.
Oh,
like the ankle was folded, and then I went all like, and fell down. So I went from 3rd best like fitness model in Australia, in the fastest growing federation that everyone wants to be in. All the people that win those comps end up going to America. I went from being like this super stud to 22nd birthday or 23rd in a wheelchair, doing a bond clean on the house because we were about to move out of that apartment to another place with my mates. I was still young, and they had to do everything for me. I'm talking, help me get like into the toilet, and I could hold the door when I was going to the toilet. And I went from being like superhero dude that could do kickboxing, bodybuilding. I was like, the ego was high and I was killing it. I was personal trainer. I've been a personal trainer for a few years by then, and because I'd done so well with like trying to look really good, people would think that, and it's smart, my real estate was good, like my body was good as a personal trainer. After that moment happened, I realized, okay, wow, like what can you actually bring but without having to work? And that's when the brand started. I was like, I can't make any money, I can't go to the gym. I ended up being on crutches for like 8 to 10 weeks, and I couldn't PT for ages. And that's when people online were like, hey, like, if you have free time, can I pay you to write me up a meal plan? And I was like,
So Instagram had already sort of started at this stage? Or?
Yeah, by then, like, I did some photo shoots for my like fitness competitions, and it was funny, those photo shoots would do alright, I would like them, but the things that were most popular was like selfies in an elevator after a swim. Like the stuff that, when the selfies became popular,
So what year was that? Because you sort of got on the Instagram train pretty early, hey? Like.
So that would have been 2014.
Yeah.
By 2014, I think I got to 50 or 60,000 followers. And then within a year after my motorbike accident, because of the story and because I've now started, I had more time. I started a diary.
Yeah.
I started talking when Snapchat first came out. And when videos first came out, like people were actually posting videos, I would be talking about like what I've been through. And speaking about my emotions as a male was very rare in the bodybuilding scene. And that's when the brand started. I found it fell on me because I was chasing what I loved. But it fell on me because I couldn't work and I didn't have any money. So I had to think, it's all fun and games, like having a social media following, but like I have no money to pay my bills. I was broke then. Personal training was a struggle, getting up super early and stuff. I know that you've done personal training before as well. It's like a crazy job. So it was at that point that I was like, I've got to think a bit more about funds and money. But it was after I embraced the passion of fitness and after I embraced what I want to do. So for someone who's listening or watching, whatever they want to do, photography, videography, real estate, whatever, I embraced the passion about it first, and then I looked for the Achilles heel. And it's the growth of this social media platform that's taken over Facebook. Now Facebook's purchased it. And as it was growing, I strapped myself in on the growth and was like, what can I do different? Like everyone was posing in good photos and abs and whatever, but like, I'm going to talk about what I'm doing. I'm going to show them the food I'm eating. I'm going to show them my lifestyle, living on the beach and stuff. So to answer that question more accurately, the brand started because I was at a breaking point. I was at my lowest...
necessity.
I was at my lowest low, and my personality is like that. Like I just seem to cruise by until something becomes an extreme necessity. Great word for it. And then it's like you're forced to step up. You either make it or you break it. And I wasn't ready to go work for someone. I'd worked at McDonald's, Domino's. I'd picked beans when I was younger. I'd worked on farms. Like I knew what hard work was like. And getting paid $10 an hour picking beans. Like I would think about that in my mind when I was in the wheelchair, and I think if I eat healthy, I can still use the machines at the gym, and I can take pictures and videos and talk to this social media platform that's quite growing fast about my vision. And then they gave me the idea. They were like, you can help me online. And then I was like, online coaching. That's when
you started like what Gary Vee talks about a lot with like exactly that, like talking to the camera, being honest, like before it was a thing that he spoke about, like.
And it was just because like growing up with my mum and my sister, I didn't really have a father figure to say like, oh, don't be a pussy, don't be strong. Like I didn't have a father figure to try to tell me that I had to be like this certain way. So my mum would always tell me to like talk through what I would like, and it was so much harder for me to. It was like my Instagram was like my diary and my psychologist. Because
I don't think that is.
super weird. So like I would write big captions on there when I wasn't doing videos on a good selfie or a good photo of me training, explaining why this is so important to me. And that was when Gymshark, I remember I got the short shorts from Gymshark when they were like on eBay, when it was like the Ziz era before Ziz died or just after he died or whatever. And then you see how Gymshark's grown, and then I feel like...
So he was wearing Gymshark? Or did he have his own brand?
This is Gymshark copied Ziz's short festivals.
Okay.
That was their first shorts they kind of sold, and the stringers, and he wore the stringers too. He made the stringers popular because he would pull the stringers over his shoulders and like pose and stuff. And like knowing Ziz's brother and a little bit of Ziz, didn't know him personally at that time. I could see the growth, like bodybuilding forums.
That was my first exposure to like real, like I guess like a influencer. Just because it was so entertaining, man. Like his YouTube videos were epic. It's so good.
He was one of the first to do this personality.
Yeah.
Like Juji Mufu, all the YouTubers have a YouTube personality. I know a lot of influencers that I stayed with a few of them when I was in Bali, and on their social media they have this aura, and you're like, oh my god, they're amazing. And they are, but they don't wake up and order their breakfast and go, hey, how you gonna like a flat white? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's very Americanized. So knowing that, I was like, how about just being
yourself,
having that energy? Like I was a crazy ADD kid, so I had this energy. Like mum has videos of me when I was young, dancing around like an idiot, like singing in the shower, just like they call it Spacko Jacko, just doing crazy stuff. So I used that to convert into like what I liked, and that was fitness and fun and laughter. And you see it with TikTok now.
Yeah, it's
like
really
every second 13-year-old girl and guy are basically an artist now. And the reason why TikTok is closing in on Instagram is because Instagram doesn't let you really be a music artist. It lets you be like a for model, like a selfie model. So they've filled that gap. But back to it, yeah, like branding was like necessity. I was broke. I need to find a way to make it. But what am I passionate about? What have I already established that I'm good at? What can I do for the next 10 to 20 years that I won't get bored of? And that's the growth of the fitness, the wellness industry. And that's what also led me to, having that accident, and I've got bulging discs in my back from when I was even younger than that, when I was 18, doing a deadlift competition, ego lifting, wrong technique. That made me passionate about being the best personal trainer I could be, and that made me passionate about like sharing my story with the world. I thought if there's someone else out there that has like a similar injury or have gone through similar things, or they're not even there yet, but they want to see someone in a role model situation. Like I was obsessed with Batman when I was younger. I was obsessed with Batman. And I think it was like the Dark Knight, like the guy that's like doing the stuff in the shadows, whatever. I wanted to be that hero. I didn't have anyone around me to show my story. So
do you think you were creating the role model you never had?
Absolutely, that's so trippy. I've never heard anyone say that.
I was just thinking about that. I'm like, I think about that a lot when I'm like, whether it's in business or martial arts or sport, when I give advice to like people who are younger than myself, it's like, I always try and give them the advice I never had, you know what I mean? And try and package in a way, like, what would I have told myself when I was like 10 years younger? Just listening to you, it's funny, man. It's like you're trying to create the gap that was already existing in your life and then pass that down the line, like, pay it forward to other people.
And that's what the Batman is.
Yeah.
Like the father, the protection, the guy that was not there for the fame, but not there for people to see it, but to be the protector. And I suppose I never really had that. That's cool. I've never really thought about that. That's probably why I got so into martial arts as well, to be more protective of friends around me. And most of the street fights I got in was like, I think I've only been on 4 or 5 of them, and they never end well, but 4 out of 5 of them was me protecting a friend that was getting hurt. Which again comes back from that like superhero role model.
It's funny, man. It's like, when I think about it as well, like the same thing, it's getting into martial arts and, sport and all that. It was searching for that role model, like not having, like I think my dad left when I was about 11 or 12, and it's like not having that father role model is like a blessing and a curse, because you don't have someone that you can model, but exactly that, you don't have someone telling you what to do and not to do.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
I mean, if you see a father just pounding down drinks every night, smoking this, or like, my father was a little bit physical towards my mum, but I was so young that I don't have vivid memories. And it was a bit of very, like I'm talking sub 3 years old, so I believe that I actually don't have memories of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's best to not see that sometimes, but like you were saying, you miss a bit.
And I think about that Fight Club quote, and he's like, we're a generation raised by women. And like, because you think of so many people now come from like a broken family, it's so funny, but I definitely think there are advantages to that. And yeah, maybe it's like more softer sort of feminine side. It had a bigger part of your upbringing, but it taps into a different part, like you said, where you are able to be a little bit more vulnerable when you're talking to people, and you've got that different side that you might not have had if you had like a real strong father figure. But then you lose that other side as well that gives you confidence and stuff like that. And it's like that mate. Like I always think the best thing growing up as an adult would be to have, you see where other guys will have their dads as like their friend. And like you never have that, that's a big thing I really miss,
Gives me goosebumps, man, like makes me super tapping in my emotional side hearing that, because I always wanted a brother or a father, not to tell me what to do because I was very rebellious, but to have a friend to talk about like boy stuff, like when you're fucking 13-year-old and you're getting boners or whatever, and you're not going to talk to your mum about that, and it's just a strange thing. So you do find that when that last part you said about that Fight Club quote, there's so much stuff about Fight Club that you can relate to. Now that I'm older, I watched it when I was so young. I need to rewatch it. Like I have rewatched it. I need to rewatch it again with the new knowledge that I know, because it's all a lot of a figure of speech. It's a story behind the story, and you see so many young guys like 15, 16, 17, 18 that are getting locked up, stealing shit, fights and all that, and they don't have a father. But in this society right now, I believe the reason why they're like that is because we still have this thing that we want men to be like NFL players, big strong guys, like all the heroes are like big strong dudes. Like you never see, in the new movies you do, but in the old Marvel and movies like that, you don't really see the superheroes crying and asking for love from anyone. They're always like, I'll protect and I don't need anything back from it. That's a setup for young men. But that's not the episode. I really like that chat. It's really good.
No, that's cool, man. I guess from what I've seen as well, which I think is really cool and something I'm super interested in, and that's the business side about what you do. Like I've seen the way you leverage your brand and how you barter. Like, and I think in this day and age, it's going to become a lot bigger than just like, okay, I do something for you and you pay me. I've seen the way you exchange. It's like, well, okay, I'll do, say for instance, some coverage on your brand or whatever, and then in exchange you get that experience. And it really taps into the cool thing I got out of Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week, and that is, I don't want to be a millionaire, but I want to live the millionaire lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought it was really cool. So I guess, for one, take me through like, who taught you how to negotiate? You know, who taught you how much you were worth? Like that business side, like who taught you that, or how did you teach yourself?
I think it's two kind of areas there. You've got one with my mum always showing that even though we didn't have fancy cars and brand names and stuff, I didn't have running shoes, but I could win the running races. I didn't do the school practice like and stuff, but I go to a PE class, we'd go to gymnastics, and I'd do a backflip on the first day or whatever, and they were like, how is this? And you got to know your value, and sometimes that value doesn't come from how much money you have, but the environment you're in. So my mum was always about environment, and I think that stuck by me. It's like this last trip I did to Tangalooma Island with City Beach. It's an amazing environment. It helps you tap in. Like me and Alicia, my fiance, we went to Tangalooma Island. City Beach paid for the whole day, like quad biking and stuff. And most people would be like, well, that's a bit of a waste of time. What'd you get paid for it? And so it's like, well, I got an experience. I mean, that's like a couples retreat we don't have to go and do now for a few months or weeks. And I think a lot of people think of influencers as like these little righteous little shits that are getting all this stuff for free. And I can see that guys and girls that are very young that grow too fast. I mean, like I didn't get on Instagram until, you know, I was like 19 or something. So I'd kind of lived that teenagehood. Like I'd learned a little bit of stuff about like working. You know, I worked in bean farms and stuff. You got these kids, like on the Justin Bieber documentary, the series, from like 13 onwards, he was a millionaire, 14 or whatever. Like he literally never had to work in his whole life, and he actually has chronic illness. At the moment, psychologically, he has a psych.
Yeah, because like the serotonin, like basically he's had such big serotonin hits in his life that he's essentially clinically depressed because you can't keep smashing that. Like he's just burnt his. I was listening to someone explain that he's burned out sort of his receptors, so he can't. He's never going to get those same hits unless he's like touring and performing for these massive crowds.
Well,
and
that's
stuff.
the thing. After when he had to cut one of his tours. Like about 2 years ago, actually, he didn't bring anything out for a year. He had like time off because he was really bad. He was on drugs. He was saying that even when he was a teenager, he was on every drug you could think of, which is crazy. Well, it's like that's the reason I brought that up is that can happen with social media, and that can happen with a lot of stuff. But if you use it in a way where instead of just getting heaps of money or just obviously you got to pay the bills, but your bartering system, that can be very effective. Like when I was competing in bodybuilding, it's like one of the main things for bodybuilding is meals, food. It costs a lot. So I would get a hold of brand. So like when you're a bodybuilder, food is like probably the most expensive thing. You're eating so much chicken and all this stuff. Like you're all beef, like you're eating a lot of food constantly. And that's all you're concentrating on. You're obsessed with it. So like I got a hold of meal companies, and I could see that people were putting up stuff about them. So I would shoot them a message or an email and just be like, hey, like here's my page, here's my audience, this is a screenshot of people who watch my stuff. Can I get a few meals?
So that's where it started with meal prep sort of stuff right at the beginning.
Kind of like that, yeah.
That's cool.
And then I remember after sharing some stuff, people would send me like a shirt or a clothing, and then I realized, like I like to buy clothing, but it's better off if I just find a clothing brand that I like and then share about it. And that's big on YouTube, like Gymshark's now, multi-billion-dollar USA.
Man, that Gymshark story, sorry. I will do. That's better. So Gymshark, because I watched I knew because you've worn some of their stuff, but I didn't really know much about them. And I watched their story on YouTube, just how they started. And I was like, this kid's like in his mid-teens, and he started, and now he's like Well, he's been a multi-millionaire since what, his late teens? Like, it's insane
Crazy.
the growth that company's gone through. It's just
There was
nuts.
another two guys, or one guy in particular, who was really good at like the marketing side of it, but he just wanted to be rich. They bought him out early on because he was just buying Lamborghinis, McLarens, like, and he just wanted to be rich. And once he became rich, the passion was lost. But that one guy that you watched, the guy who's like the main owner now, like one of the originals, he really has a passion. He was the skinny guy, and he looked up to the Lex and the guys on YouTube.
Because that was influencer marketing. Like, he was just flicking guys out stuff, and they're like, "Hey, we really like it." Like,
he was like, if I'm 16, and instead of watching the ads on TV or All-Star or whatever they're watching in the UK or whatever, he's like, my hero is the guy on YouTube that are getting 10,000 views of other 10,000 16-year-olds. So he's like, why would I pay for it to be in? Because back then you got to put clothes in stores. So he's like, why don't I flick a few of these shirts that I'm screen printing myself to these guys, and he was custom making the sizes to fit their muscles. That's
it's
how
insane. Like, he's literally like custom sewing all of these garments together. Like, it was
cool,
nuts.
So the part two of who I learned from about bartering and like my own worth would definitely be my mum.
Yeah.
And the one that really triggered for my social media to grow from in the inside here, for me to give myself a vision, because I've had this poor man mindset for so long. Like, I've seen psychologists and business coaches, and they're like, you could be making a lot more than what you're making, but I don't think you feel worthy of it. And that's totally true. Like, I grew up with not much, so I don't feel worthy of being rich, but I do feel worthy of the environment. That's why the barter system was really easy for me. Like, I'm happy to ask for, like, I've got a skateboard getting delivered today from OB5.
You got a skater
getting delivered today, and I wanted it because I want to make sick videos for them, but I also want it because I want to get a drone, and like, we're going to create some cool stuff. I didn't want to ask for a free skateboard, but I'm happy to say to them, hey, I'll make a video for you, I'll take some photos for you, because they're going to get that back in sales, they're going to get that back.
And that's such cheap marketing for that. Like, and I just think,
you know how much it costs to make videos.
Oh man, I'm like, I look at it now, like how cheap it is for some brands. Exactly that. Like, if you already have an audience like yourself, like Jackson's got how many, like 300,000.
Yeah.
Like, so if you look at that, if you're a company, you're like, I can tap into, I don't know how the algorithm with Instagram works, but I can tap in, let's just say, hundreds of thousands of people like that, who are dialed into you, who follow you, and like, with any sort of like personality, you listen to them a lot, you follow them, like, then you start to sort of get inside their head, and you develop that tribe. Like, essentially your followers are like a tribe, you're all got like similar interests, and then when you're like, hey, I really like this, it is awesome for a brand. And like, if I can slot that in there, that is so good.
If the guy on Instagram that I follow, that I've been following for a while, and I really relate to a lot of what he's been through, his story, his vision, I will trust him over like a news report, not on like the weather and stuff, but like if the news is like, hey, this is the best new like workout supplements, I'll actually go to the influencer, because I'm like, I've been following him for so long, like, who are these guys? Like, who are these guys to me? What have they been through? They could be just reading off a script. I know that at least he doesn't just work for a company, that's his brand. Like, if he stuffs up a few times, his brand goes downhill. So overall, like, that's a thing, like learning, when I got to the point where I learned that, like, I'm still learning about it now, but like tax and income and all this, like, if you do barter systems, it can get around a lot of that. It's good for both sides. And again, for me, like, I'm all about the experience. I think you and Ben and that, the reason why I usually enjoy when we go and we spend time together and we chat and you ask what I've been up to, is because I do kind of live that like millionaire lifestyle. I hate saying it like that.
Yeah, but it's just a fun lifestyle, man. Like, it's a lot of different adventures and stuff.
I'm not a millionaire. I drive like a soccer mum's car, but I can go
Shout
for
out
a
to
surf.
Soccer Mum's car.
So
Love a
good.
Soccer Mum's car.
Never been put up by the cops. I go for a surf whenever I want. I can move my business meetings and stuff like this around. If I need to do a photo shoot for a company to get paid for stuff, I can schedule that, so I can go to like an event that I want to go to. It gives me the freedom, and I think a lot of people who are watching this and a lot of people who are going to listen to this, etc., but having $1 million in your hand actually doesn't do anything.
Well, then straight away you say tax, it's like, well, you're going to lose almost half of it like that.
But even then, like, having $100 in your hand actually doesn't mean anything unless you can do something with it. And I'm just trying to do the things that I want to do, and we'll talk about this on the weekend when we're surfing, the more things you do that don't cost very much money with friends seem to be better than when you have to fork out a lot of money. Like, experiences over purchasing crap. Like, that's a big part of what I'm trying to push at the moment.
It's huge, man. There's something about and as you get older, you start to experience, you start to value experiences a lot more. Because I don't know, I'm almost 10 years ahead of where you are, and it's like the older you get, you realize that the amount of time to do some of that really fun stuff that requires a lot of physicality as well, you really want to do as much of that as you can the younger you are to get the most out of it.
And the more you do it, the longer you'll be able to do it.
Yeah, that's it. Play more. It's like, do we get old? We stop playing because we get old, or we get old because we stop playing?
Exactly.
It's that's a really, really cool quote.
Imagine all the businesses like F45 and PLC and all the 24-hour gyms, all the big gyms, they'd be out of business if we just kept playing in the park with our friends and we were fucking 10 years old. We kept skateboarding,
monkey bars and all that kind of stuff.
Monkey bars, now all the top functional gyms have all got monkey bars in. We're playing on monkey bars. Why don't we just keep doing that? That's another fucking rant we'd love to chat about.
Oh, dude, definitely, man. I guess one of the cool things that I saw is, like you talked about at the beginning, that trip to Canada you did and stuff like that. And I guess for you, travel seems to be a big part of your life. What do you sort of have, I guess, moving forward? Is there anything you've got planned or any sort of big things that you want to do? For the next sort of 12 months or so?
So when we committed to getting this house where we're at now, I said when I got engaged, I made a commitment to Alicia, my fiance, that I wouldn't travel as much, just because I found that traveling's amazing. I've learnt more from travelling than anything else.
Yeah.
But there was a point, and a lot of people will listen to this and go, wow, this hurts to hear this. There was a point where people who can afford and they travel a lot, it ends up being an escape. You don't want to be traveling so much that when you get home, all you're doing is looking forward to your travels. But you want to at least travel enough that it's creating enough time in your mind when you're not at work that you can create these ideas on your own businesses. And if it's not a business, it's getting back into creating stuff with your hands. Joe Rogan talks about a guy who carves wood and makes furniture would be much happier than a guy who works on a computer.
Yeah.
It just makes sense. I've met people that worked on this bean farm that I worked at when I was 12 or 13 years old, and when I look back at it now, they were smiling, and they had their earphones in, and they had these wide brim hats, and to me I was that was hell. But they were I don't really have to listen to anyone. If I pick a lot of beans, I get paid more dollars. So that's what I want to say first before I ran on about more travel. Traveling's good, but some of those influencers that are traveling constantly, they're actually just running away from they don't really know what they want to do. They're quite confused. You're discovering things, but eventually you're just running away from responsibilities. When I came back from some of my big travels, I was oh fuck, I got to go 2 years worth of tax. I got to do a lot of things. But as for the future, I went from not being able to afford anything to being able to afford to travel a bit more, and then working with companies and brands and stuff. And my trip to Canada was life-changing, incredible. Went to Barbados. A lot of that was paid for with the brand that I was with. Again, I didn't get paid to go. They just paid for the trip. Again, it's just awesome.
It's cool, man. It's travel.
So for the future, there's a few things I'm planning on. I'm heading to Bali in 2 months just to do a few days with a few mates. I'm going to bring the GoPro and a camera and just try to keep my phone and everything off the whole time and just film random shit that has no actual. I don't want to have a plan.
Yeah.
Just film some background stuff, and even if I don't even edit it, just have some memories and stuff, and I might make a little vlog out of it. That's that, and then I'm hoping to get down to Melbourne to go to the surf park, the new surf pool they got down there.
Yeah.
So that will fit in over the next few months, and then I want to take Alicia to Queenstown because we did New Zealand together, and it was
such a cool place,
incredible trip. Alicia wants to go when it's a bit warmer, which is cool. We can do lots of hiking and stuff like that. A big trip that I'm planning on is a guy called Ben Patrick, who is on Instagram at Knees Over Toes Guy.
Yeah, I've heard you talking about him a fair bit, yeah.
He's the best trainer in the world because he just is straight to the point. He is the most dedicated person I've ever met when it comes to sacrificing every hour of his day, 7 days a week, to make sure that the $50 a month that people pay for his programming is getting value. And it's funny, most trainers, I'm going to say that, I've got my own online coaching, and most people would be surprised that I would say his stuff is just so good. He doesn't really talk about nutrition because he said it's just a sticky situation. Everyone has their own idea.
It's a hard one.
He just said if you train really, really well and don't eat like an idiot, you probably have amazing results, and it's true. So the next big trip is, he has said from all the podcasts and videos we've done together, we're very close, we've created a lot of videos. He now has more Australian people on his online coaching than any other country. So he puts that towards people like myself, other Aussie guys that have worked with him as well. Keegan Smith's a great coach that I've worked with. He's an incredible, amazing human being doing amazing things. And what my long-term plan is, and this is from Ben Patrick himself, he's invited me to come to Florida, to Clearwater where his gym is, and work with NFL athletes, NBA athletes, and really tier up my training and just get inside a place where everyone is just 100% focused on what they can do with their body, not what it looks like. He always says to me, like, you have an incredible physique and that's going to motivate people throughout the world. And he goes, I'd love to look more like you or whatever, but he goes,
what can you do?
What can you do?
Yeah.
You know, what can you do with it? And he's always like, use your body, but like work on, I don't want to have injuries all the time. So I'm going to go to Florida, going to go to Clearwater, going to spend...
That'll be awesome,
probably like 2 weeks within there. And we're going to film heaps, and no one really knows this yet, so this is cool information.
It's a scoop.
Yeah, it's a scoop. We're going to create our own online program together where for the same price or less than what he charges, whatever we make up, we're going to have his online coaching that he already has, his membership stuff, which you get daily emails, apps and everything. We're going to work on a version that works in best with my community, which is more talking about like bone broths and stuff that we rave on about. Like, he hasn't gone right in the nutrition side, and I think my mum and myself, we can continue to make content every week and put it into emails, and I'm passionate about that. So we're working on collaborating, making a monthly membership that's really affordable, like cheap stuff like Netflix of fitness, with the best physical movement online coach for athletes that I know, but bridging into everyday people. Like at the moment, he's mostly getting people in America and Australia that wanted to be athletes or were athletes and got injured. I want to tap into 99% of people that are just like eating chips on the couch and they like want to move their body better. So that's a big trip, and I'm waiting to do that. And now that the wedding's not going to be for a few years, and I'm definitely going to work on doing that. It's like, I want to go there. I want to go to Florida when it's warm. So
Florida's always warm, dude.
Yeah, that's true.
It's always warm. Don't worry, I went there in supposed winter in South Beach, and it was like
the water is
humid day.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Well, man, that's good. This is probably the longest one of these I've done yet. So
I said it was going to be long. I can talk.
That's awesome, man. We're gonna have to do a couple more of these. There's way too many topics for us to dive into one. But look, thanks, man. That was rad. Thanks for the chat.
Awesome.
Stay curious, guys. See you later.